Here's the revised version of your text with proper paragraph breaks and punctuation. It was the beginning of fall, and I worked as a cashier at a small store near my apartment. My usual shift ended at 9 p.m., and then I'd usually go do food deliveries for a couple of hours before heading home. I actually enjoyed doing deliveries at night, as the roads weren't busy and most other delivery drivers worked during the day and took all the orders. So I'd actually get more orders to do at night. Anyway, I had just gotten out of work and set up my app to get ready to do some deliveries. The first one that came in was quick and only took about 15 minutes. Then, I waited for a few minutes before the next order came in. It was a good payout, and the delivery address was 20 minutes away from where I was. I headed over to the fast food restaurant to pick up their food, then started making my way over to the house. The town I live in isn't too big and has a lot of empty plots of land. There's the main center of town, which is where my apartment is and where most of the restaurants are. Then, about 10 minutes out, there's a lot of farmland and the houses are much more spread out. Almost all of the deliveries I get are within the town area, but every once in a while, I'll get a delivery further out into the farm area. I assumed this was going to be a farmhouse since it was 20 minutes away. However, the app said that the address was located in a small neighborhood area just off of a small highway. I didn't like delivering to isolated farmhouses at night, as it just kind of creeped me out, so I was happy to be delivering to a neighborhood home. Once I got off the highway, I turned left and started making my way down the road toward the neighborhood. But almost immediately, I got a call from an unknown number. I declined it, thinking it was just a scam, but just a few seconds later, they called again. Figuring it was probably the customer, I accepted it. "Hello?" I asked. A few seconds went by with no response, so I just hung up. But then again, just a few moments later, the same number called me. I answered, and almost immediately, a guy spoke and told me I had turned the wrong way. I asked him what he meant as I had the map up, and it said that I was going the right way. But he said his address gets messed up on the delivery app and that he always has to call and let the drivers know where to go. I said okay and asked him how to get there. He told me that when I got off the highway, I needed to take a right from that road, then take the third left. He mentioned it was a gravel path that led to his farmhouse at the end. I told him I'd be there in a few minutes and turned the car around. I've had multiple customers call me before to tell me that the address was a little off or to give me directions on unnamed roads, as it was pretty common out here, so I honestly didn't think much of it. I passed the highway that I had turned off of and continued until I found the third left, then turned onto the gravel path. The path went into a small forest of trees, and it was really dark. Again, I didn't like these areas at night, so I was definitely a little nervous driving down this isolated gravel road. Once I started getting nervous, I began thinking about how strange it was that the map had taken me so far in the opposite direction of the house that the man claimed was his actual address. I tried to bury those thoughts, assuring myself that I was just overthinking it because I was nervous. A couple of minutes passed, though, and there was still no house in sight. At this point, I wasn't even sure if I had turned down the right path, but the trees were too close to the sides, so I didn't have much room to turn around anyway. I figured I'd continue down to the end, then call to ask if I had the right place and turn around there if not. Another minute or two went by before I finally reached the end, as it merged into a small circular driveway next to a house. I drove up to the path that led to the front door and parked the car next to a for sale sign that was put up in front of the house. Seeing that, I wasn't sure if I had the right house, but I looked over at the front door, and it was open. I could see someone further back wave at me. Figuring I was good, I grabbed the bag and started making my way over to the door. As I stepped onto the porch and began putting the bag down, I saw the man again down the hallway that led to the kitchen. He politely asked me if I could set the food down on the kitchen counter, then quickly walked away as if he was in a rush. Then I heard him turn the sink on in the kitchen. Hesitantly, I took a step into the house and looked around. It was decorated with old furniture and accessories, but it almost looked like it was completely unused. I quickly made my way down the hall and into the kitchen, but as soon as I got there, I noticed that the sink was still running, but the man was nowhere in sight. This sent chills down my body, and I quickly set the bag down on the counter and got out of there as fast as I could. I could hear the man yell something from the front door as I got back in my car, but I couldn't understand what he said. I put the car in drive and went back out the way I came. I didn't stop driving until I got to the parking lot of my apartment. Then, I pulled my phone out and saw multiple missed calls from that same number. I blocked the number, then opened the delivery app so I could end my deliveries for the night. But that's when I noticed that I had messages from the customer through the app, telling me that I had turned the wrong way and that I was at the wrong house. I went into shock for a moment, realizing that the man who had called me wasn't my actual customer, and the house I was in was just some stranger's house. I called the police immediately and reported everything to them. An officer came to my apartment to go over more details soon after. I had no idea how this man could have known that I was doing a delivery and had been able to see my location. The officer said that my phone had likely been hacked and that the man was probably monitoring everything I was doing. Hearing this made me really uncomfortable. As if all that wasn't bad enough, the next day I was informed that the house I was at was actually vacant, as it was for sale by the owners who had moved out months ago. The man had apparently gotten in through an unlocked window in one of the rooms. As of right now, they still haven't found anything significant that could lead to finding the man, which makes me feel really unsafe. I don't know for sure what the man was trying to do, but I think it's a pretty good assumption that he was probably planning on kidnapping me or maybe even worse. I try not to think about it too much, but I can't help but go over all the horrible things that could have happened that night.